Well, good morning, church. Welcome to a good Sunday.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, it's so great to see all your lovely faces. Today we have a special privilege here to be joined. We have a privilege to be joined by Worship Collective today. They will be leading us into an extended time of worship today. So let's go ahead and stand and give praise back to the Lord who deserves more than we can give him.
Well, as she said, we are Worship Collective. I'm Grace. This is Holly. We are the co-leaders. And then we have Carissa, Josh, Ethan, Daniel, and then back on the sound we have Savannah. We're right there. But anyway, we're just really so excited to worship with you guys this morning. And so, yeah, we're going to get started and enjoy worshiping the Lord.
was formed, you knew my name, was held in your hands, and still today, you know me better than anyone could. And from the moment I rise through the night, you sing over me and breathe new life with no hesitations. You're always waiting, I'm awestruck in wonder. I never knew love could feel like this. It's more than I wanted. Jesus, I can't get over it. One thing I ask, with this I seek, to gaze on your beauty and majesty, to dwell in your presence and live for your glory. I'm awestruck in wonder. I never knew love could feel like this. It's more than I wanted. Oh Jesus, I can't get over it. I'm awestruck in wonder. I never knew love could feel like this. It's more than I wanted. Jesus, I can't get over it. 'Cause I'm so in love with you. And I'm so in love with you. Oh, I'm so in love with you. Jesus, I'm so in love with you. It's always been you. Every season of life, every long restless night, it's always been you. The highs and the lows, the ebbs and the flows, it's always been you. The smile on my face, the joy I can shake, it's always been you. The song of my soul, the one thing I know, it's always been you. The smile on my face, the joy I can't shake, it's always been you. The song of my soul, the one thing I know, I'm so in love with you. And I'm so in love with you. And I'm so in love with you. Jesus, I'm so in love with you. I'm awestruck in wonder. I never knew love could feel like this. It's more than I wanted. Jesus, I can't get over it. I'm awestruck in wonder. I never knew love could feel like this. It's more than I wanted. Jesus, I can't get over it. One more time. I'm awestruck in wonder. I never knew love could feel like this. It's more than I wanted. Jesus, I can't get over it. nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love never fails, it never gives up, it never runs out on me. Your love fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Cause you were a lover before time's beginning. You gave your love freely, withholding nothing. Jesus, my Jesus. You carried the weight of the world on your shoulders. You stopped at nothing to prove you were for us. Jesus, my Jesus. It's extravagant, it doesn't make sense. We'll never comprehend the way you love us. It's unthinkable. Only heaven knows just how far you'd go to say you love us, to say you love us, to say you love us. 'Cause you don't belittle our pain and our suffering. You comfort us in the greatest unraveling. Jesus, my Jesus. 'Cause you are the dawn that is breaking within me. You are the sun that is rising around me. Jesus, oh my Jesus. It's extravagant, it doesn't make sense. We'll never comprehend the way you love us. It's unthinkable. Only heaven knows just how far you'd go to say you love us. It's extravagant, it doesn't make sense. We'll never comprehend the way you love us. It's unthinkable. Only heaven knows just how far you'd go to say you love us, to say you love us, to say you love us. 'Cause here is all my love. It's yours and no conditions when you pull It's yours, no conditions when you pull me close. No, I won't resist it. Here is all my love. It's yours, no conditions when you pull me close. No, I won't resist it. Here is all my love. It's yours, no conditions when you pull me close. No, I won't resist it. I won't resist it. I won't resist it. I won't resist it. It's extravagant. It doesn't make sense. We'll never comprehend the way you love us. It's unthinkable. Only heaven knows just how far you go to say you love us. It's extravagant. It doesn't make sense. We'll never comprehend the way you love us. It's unthinkable. Only heaven knows just how far you'd go to say you love us, 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 say you love us, oh, to say you love us.
All things have passed away. Your love has stayed the same. Your constant grace remains the cornerstone. Things that we thought were dead are in life again. You cause your sun to shine on darkest nights. For all that you've done, we will pour out our love. This will be our anthem song. Jesus, we love you. Oh, how we love you. You are the one our hearts adore. The hopeless have found their own. The orphans now have a home. All that was lost has found
Lord Jesus, we thank you for meeting us here this morning. Thank you for your presence, God. Thank you for the love that you have graced us with, Lord. I thank you for your grace and your mercy, Jesus. I ask that you would be with the speaker, God, that you would use him as a mouthpiece, God, that the words that he speaks would come directly from you. In Jesus' name, amen.
I had thought if I brought this, they'd let me get out of this, but it didn't happen. So, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, welcome. It's great to see everybody here today. I'm going to turn around so I can actually see the slides here. But I do want to thank Worship Collective for being here. They did a fantastic job. Really appreciate it. If you guys haven't seen, they have some stuff in the back if you're interested, some hats, some shirts. So head on up over there after. But thank you guys. Appreciate it. Just a couple of announcements. You would always, you have the connection card that's with you in your bulletin. You take a minute, let us know how we can help you. Let us know how you want to serve. Just fill that out. Drop it into the offering plate when they bring it by, and we'd be happy to connect with you and help you in that way. Salad bar today. As you can probably know, Linda and I saw Mary Ellen and Mel. A bunch of people are back there going to work pretty hard for us. Thank you guys for all that. But please, join us afterwards for the salad bar. It's just a time for us to kind of connect with each other, just find a little bit of fellowship before we go about our day. What else here? Oh, yes, we have a prayer room that I don't think a lot of people oftentimes know about. So right around the corner there, when service is over, if you need prayer support for any reason, please join us. There's always one or two people that are back there that would love to pray with you. But join us after the message and you can go there. We oftentimes half the time forget to say anything about it, but if you need any prayer support, please, we're happy to help you there. Ways to give. So a lot of people give the offering. There's digital ways. There's all kinds of ways to give. And if you call CenterPoint your church, we'd love to have you give to the mission of God. We don't do this because we're obligated. We do this because we love Jesus and we're trying to support his mission any way we can. So we in a moment are going to actually have an offering song, and I believe that's something that Danielle has recorded here. So in a moment, I guess we're going to go do that. Is that it? Remember everything? Good? All right. There we go. So. Oh, yeah, now's the offering.
You're gonna see it's our destiny.
want to offer up a quick prayer for Grace. We just had one of our kids need to go to the hospital just now. So if you could, maybe we could just pray for her briefly. Lord, just be with Grace and her family right now. We have no idea what's going on, but I just pray that you would get her the care that she needs and comfort her family at this time. Pray that we can do anything to help and support them and help us to reach out to them throughout the day. In your name we pray. Amen. All righty. Well, appreciate everybody being here today. I honestly didn't know if I would be here at first after the other day, but I'm here and do my best to not bore you too terribly much, only a little. So today we're continuing our series on the life of David. And we'll be discussing an incredible journey and an incredible friendship between two men. David, who was the eventual King Saul, and Jonathan, who was Saul's son. Before we do that, I'd actually like to invite, I don't know if I see him out here, there's Tom and Everett. I'd like to invite them up to the stage because I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask them about their long-standing relationship. So that mic right there should work for you. Just push the mute button. Hold the mute button for a second. That good? All right, it's great. Yep, you're good. All righty. So just a couple of questions for you guys. How long have you been friends, and how did your relationship develop?
Is it on? It's on. Okay. Tom and I met about the time of the new millennium when the kids were little. And at Royal Manor Elementary School.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we met through our daughters became friends, and that's how we became friends. We had to drive them all over the place.
So how have you maintained your friendship through the years despite obstacles that sometimes can get in the way?
so Tom's very hospitable. And so we had, just like young families would, with kids would be doing their thing, and he'd have a party, everybody'd come over, New Year's parties. That's kind of the way I know it's around the millennium we started our friendship. Julie makes good pie, and that didn't help, or it did help. And so it always showed me and instilled in me a lot of comfort in their home. And that helped a lot. And I watched him over the years, and kids are very meaningful to me, and him as well. And like he had them in droves coming to the house to eat his food and hang out. And these kids, he wouldn't even know where they came from. They were rich kids, poor kids. He and Julie would take 2 carfuls of them to school, Sunday school, or to church. And he shared Christ with them and humbled himself. And you know, like 90% of people accept Christ before the age of 18. So, I mean, what an impact.
Well,
That makes it easy, you know, when you see someone working like that. Friendships are hard.
so what do you appreciate about each other the most?
He knows how to fix everything. No, it's nice having a Christian friend that you know that is a Christian, because you can share with one another with knowing you're not going to be judged. Which, you know, with coworkers and stuff like that, you never know. You say something and then what they're saying behind the back. And I know with Everett, I can tell him stuff and he'll, you know, I know it's going to stay with him. And on the flip side, also, if I'm just being stupid, I know him well enough, he'll go, "You're being stupid, Tom." And I won't be insulted by it because I know he has my best interest in mind.
What about you, Everett?
Question already, didn't you?
Yeah, but what I like about you, you know, some people say, "Is this going to be a long story?" Because they know me. But Tom knows he knows it's okay to just be comfortable when I'm quiet, and it doesn't happen often. He's very observant. He can tell when something's wrong. He's real quick if I need him. And shared with several friends before, but I made a note because I had to write that down. I knew I'd forget. Not only, just keeping me in his prayers and such, he does sincerely, I think, wish that the best for me, and it's just real.
Awesome. Then the last thing I wanted to ask is, how have you strengthened each other in the Lord? How have you helped each other walk with God?
I want to hear this.
We're supposed to walk with God. Actually, it's the little things. It's like, we're in the same small group and stuff together, that's it. But it's just, like he said, if I don't hear from him for a while, just at least shooting a text off, saying, hey, what's up, how you doing? Just keeping in touch that way. It doesn't always have to be, and we do hang out, we have fires together and stuff like that, but it doesn't always have to be a big event. It can just be something as simple as a text message or a quick phone call saying, hey, haven't heard from you for a while, how the kid's doing or something like that. And I think he does the same. It's just kind of not keeping each other accountable, but at least you stay in touch any way you can. If you're busy, you can always shoot a text message to someone and see how they're doing or something.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to add?
I think accountability, that's a big key to any relationship. Our wives, our spouses. He and I spend a lot of time socializing, fires, camping, trips, and we used to worship, I should say, evangelize at a moose lodge. We go drink with our buddies and just kind of keep it modest. And for a while there, I was on medicine, so I even drink non-alcoholic beer. But just by sharing by example, leading that you could be Christ's example without being religious. It's pretty cool because I can only think of really one time where I kind of felt like I was doing anything for him. I just said, this man, he's really, you never met a more humble person. And he shared with me how to show favor or grace and forgiveness to people. He's let people, he's very hospitable, he's let people into his life more than once that they've been very comfortable and safe, and they've harmed them or emotionally and physically and just torn their family. And I don't know how he does it, but he's shown grace. As far as I know, I don't experience anything that would lead me to doubt that he didn't completely forgive him. And I just can't believe it.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. You want to add anything else, Tom?
No, I'm good.
All right. Thank you guys, appreciate it. Yeah, if it turns red, you're good to go. Yeah, genuine friend is precious because friends are rare. Friends like these are rare, and I believe God gives us friends like this as a gift. In his book, The Four Loves, C.S. Lewis said the following. He says, in friendship, we think we have chosen our peers. In reality, a few years difference in the dates of our births, a few more miles between certain houses, the choice of one university instead of another, the accident of a topic being raised or not raised in a first meeting, any of these chances might have kept us apart. But for a Christian, simply speaking, strictly speaking, there are no chances. The secret master of ceremonies has been at work. Christ, who said to the disciples, ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you, can truly say to every group of Christian friends, you have not chosen one another, but I have chosen you for one another. See, I believe God puts people in our lives for a reason. People that we need, people that are going to be an encouragement and a blessing to us. And when we recognize this, we have to be careful not to take them for granted. Jesus said, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for a friend. See, Jesus understood the value of friendship, and he wants us to experience that same blessing. So I want to focus today on a study between two friends, David and Jonathan, who had a very unlikely friendship, but a special friendship. And they can show us what it can be like if we're committed to each other. So the book of 1 Samuel recounts this friendship between David, who was just this shepherd, just this little unknown person from Bethlehem, really meaningless in most people's eyes, right? And Jonathan, who was a prince, the first in line for the throne of Israel. He was King Saul's son. Now, Jonathan was this accomplished warrior, right? He was this great, even at a young age, he had accomplished so much. And he grew up in the palace with all the comforts that you would expect of somebody in the royal family. And his father was King Saul, as I said, who was Israel's first anointed king. Now, King Saul started out as a decent king, a decent man, but over time, his heart became corrupt. And his selfishness and his pride and his ego got in the way, and he no longer followed God. He was hungry for power, hungry for glory, and he became a murderous, treacherous, obsessed man who wanted Israel's success for himself, and he'd do anything to have it. See, this was the king and the father that Jonathan grew up with. Yet Jonathan didn't follow after his father. He chose a better path. He chose a path where he remembered God and followed him. He chose to be a great warrior, yes, a man of God, but we learned something else. He was an amazing friend. Jonathan and David came from different backgrounds. It's truly amazing that they even bonded to begin with. And their friendship may have actually started when David would be called to the palace by Saul to play music. He would play the harp. He was a great musician. And when Saul was feeling a little tormented or upset, he would summon David there. And I think that may have been where Jonathan and David maybe first started to connect. I'm sure they would have interacted. But what we do know from the text is that shortly after David killed Goliath, they made a covenant with one another. They made an oath and a pact with one another. And that became the foundation for their friendship. So I want us to think about what we can learn from them and how they maintained a close relationship despite all kinds of obstacles, all kinds of things that were put in their way. They maintained this relationship. And I think there are three things that we can learn from them so that we can have lifelong friendships. First two, I would say, is that if you're going to be a friend and have lifelong friendships, you have to be faithful and true. And you have to love each other deeply. A real friend is faithful and true, and a real friend loves you as he loves himself. You know, early in the relationship, as I said, they made this vow, this pact. This is in 1 Samuel 18. It says this. After David had finished talking with Saul, he met Jonathan, the king's son. And there was an immediate bond between them, for Jonathan loved David. From that day on, Saul kept David with him and wouldn't let him return home. And Jonathan made a solemn pact with David because he loved him as he loved himself. That's repeated many times. Jonathan sealed the pact by taking off his robe and giving it to David, together with his tunic, sword, bow, and belt. Now this pact was remarkable, and it's a great example of Jonathan's commitment and love to David. Now it was a two-way pact, obviously, but it tells us that Jonathan loved David as himself, and he showed it. He outwardly showed it. See, what people don't understand a lot of times is this was a very symbolic act, because Jonathan believed, even early in their relationship, that David would be God's next anointed king. Now you got to remember, he was in line for the throne. That was his birthright, but he believed that David should be king. It would be king. And he said he would willingly give up his birthright by transferring his royal garments, his royal wardrobe, to David. That was symbolic of him saying, you should be the next king. Friends, I don't know if you think about this, but that is sacrifice. Can you imagine growing up in the palace, having everything, being rich, having everything at your disposal, and saying, I don't need any of that because I love this guy more than all of that combined. That's sacrifice. That's humility. That's love. That is faithfulness. Now, I will say it wasn't long until their friendship was challenged, right? Because after David killed Goliath, he rose to great power, great fame. And Saul became quite jealous of this. See, again, Saul wanted the glory for Israel's success, and he couldn't celebrate David's successes. And in time, his jealousy resulted in just a lot of bad decisions, a lot of bad choices, to the point where he eventually made it his life's plan to kill David. Repeatedly, over and over again, he tried to kill David. But in contrast, Jonathan was nothing like his wicked father. Of all people, Jonathan had every reason to not want David to be around, to not want David to do well. But he wasn't like that. He didn't compete with his friend. He wanted the best for his friend, right? He was a mighty warrior. He had done all kinds of things even before David arrived on the scene, and it didn't matter to him. He could care less about the throne because what really mattered was this friendship. See, Jonathan was faithfully committed to David, even when his friendship caused him great stress and great difficulty. And it happened most of the time. 1 Samuel 19 is one of these examples of his faithfulness. And it says this: Saul now urged his servants and his son Jonathan to assassinate David. But Jonathan, because of his strong affection for David, told him what his father was planning. Tomorrow morning, he warned him, you must find a hiding place out in the fields. I'll ask my father to go out there with me, and I'll talk to him about you. Then I'll tell you everything I can find out. The next morning, Jonathan spoke with his father about David, saying many good things about him. The king must not sin against his servant David, Jonathan said. He's never done anything to harm you. He has always helped you in any way he could. Have you forgotten about the time he risked his life to kill the Philistine giant and how the Lord brought a great victory to Israel as a result? You were certainly happy about it then. Why should you murder an innocent man like David? There is no reason for it at all. So Saul listened to Jonathan and vowed, as surely as the Lord lives, David will not be killed. Well, newsflash, he lied. And he did that quite a bit. But this was not the only time Jonathan pleaded with his father to spare David's life. He did this consistently, over and over again, and he reminded him of David's innocence and his good nature. But unfortunately, Jonathan's pleas to spare David's life would work for a while. Saul may relent for a little bit, but then that rage, that anger, that jealousy would return, and he would just come up with another plan to get to him. But I want you to imagine the uncomfortable position Jonathan was in. Think about that. I mean, I'm sure he cared about his father, right? He wasn't always this horrible king. He was a decent man at one time. He was Israel's first anointed king. Think about the respect he must have had. Think about how he must have adored him and thought great things of him. Yet, that kind of changed after the time. But I'm sure that tension was there, right? He loved David. He was a friend. But he remembered who his father was, right? But it didn't matter. Because despite that, he was faithful and true to his friend and put David's needs before his own. See, Jonathan knew that David was very special. And he protected his friend, even when it caused his relationship with his father, his very father, to be in jeopardy. And even when his own welfare and his own life were risked. That's love. That's commitment. Jonathan had warned David to flee from his father yet again. And after fleeing and returning, this is what happens. David now fled from Naioth and Ramah and found Jonathan. What have I done? He exclaimed. What is my crime? How have I offended your father that he is determined to kill me? That's not true, Jonathan protested. You're not going to die. He always tells me everything he's going to do, even the little things. I know my father wouldn't hide something like this from me. It just isn't so. Then David took an oath before Jonathan and said, your father knows perfectly well about our friendship. So he has said to himself, I won't tell Jonathan. Why should I hurt him? But I swear to you that I'm only a step away from death. I swear it by the Lord and by your own soul. Tell me what I can do to help you, Jonathan exclaimed. And David replied, tomorrow we celebrate the new moon festival. I've always eaten with the king on this occasion, but tomorrow I'll hide in the field and stay there until the evening of the third day. If your father asks where I am, tell him I've asked permission to go home to Bethlehem for family sacrifice. And if he says fine, you will know it as well. But if he is angry and loses his temper, you will know he is determined to kill me. Show me this loyalty as my sworn friend, for we made a solemn pact before the Lord. Or kill me yourself if I have sinned against your father. But please don't betray me. See, I think he understood there was that tension, right? Between he was David's friend, but he was also Saul's son. But this is what Jonathan says. He said, never. You know that if I had the slightest notion my father was planning to kill you, I would tell you at once. So Jonathan made a solemn pact with David, saying, "May the Lord destroy all your enemies." And Jonathan made David reaffirm his vow of friendship again, for Jonathan loved David as he loved himself. Keep hearing that over and over again. So David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon festival began, the king sat down to eat. And as we skip forward, he says, "But when David's place was empty, again the next day," he wasn't there the first day either, Saul asked Jonathan, "Why hasn't the son of Jesse been here for the meal either yesterday or today?" And Jonathan said, "David earnestly asked me if he could go to Bethlehem. He said, 'Please let me go, for we are having a family sacrifice.' That's why he isn't here at the king's table." Saul boiled with rage at Jonathan. "You stupid son of a whore," he swore at him. "Do you think I don't know that you want him to be king in your place, shaming yourself and your mother? As long as the son of Jesse is alive, you'll never be king. Now go and get him so I can kill him." "Why should he be put to death?" Jonathan asked his father. "What has he done?" Then Saul hurled his spear at Jonathan, at his own son, intending to kill him. So at last, Jonathan realized that his father was really determined to kill David. Jonathan left the table in fierce anger and refused to eat on the second day of the festival, for he was crushed by his father's shameful behavior towards David. Jonathan's commitment, love, and faithfulness nearly cost him his own life. And it obviously created a huge rift between him and his father. But despite the cost, Jonathan was true. Jonathan was faithful, and he helped his friend. Friends, this is what real friends do. Real friends do this. Real friends put the needs of their friends ahead of their own. They do. Even when it isn't easy, even when it would be easier to let their friendship take a backseat, they always put the needs of their friends ahead of their own. Now, I've had friends that people have slandered, misrepresented, falsely accused, things that I know they didn't do. I've even been there at times when this stuff has gone down. And sometimes people like to spread rumors and make accusations against people. We don't really know why. They're upset, they're angry, whatever it is, or they only see things through their lens, right? They don't have any idea how the other person has been looking at these things. Now, the easy thing would be to ignore it, act like it's not happening. But real friends come to the defense of their friends so that they can help maintain their relationships, so that they can help not have their reputation slandered. All of these things are important, as real friends will do more. A faithful friend speaks up and defends their honor, defends their reputation. And if their accuser is right, if they've done something wrong, a real friend helps their friend see that they've made a mistake, so that they can be reconciled, so they can be forgiven by this other person. That's what real friends do. You know, I have close friends who have no idea, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here because they've done it to me, but I have friends who have no idea how many times I've gone to defense for them because people have been saying things about them behind their back, they've been doing things, and it's not right. And I know for a fact, because I know their hearts, and I know their intentions are usually pure, right? And I think we all have friends like that. You know them so well, and when you hear somebody say something, you're like, that's not them. There might be a misunderstanding, there might be something that happened, but that's not who they are. And I know these people have done the same to me. And I think if there's a misunderstanding, a friend goes to that offended person and helps get their side. What's been going on? What's been happening, right? And then you try to do it with your own friend. What have you been seeing? What's your take on this? What's your side of the story? Because the goal is reconciliation between those two people. That's what you want. That's what is best for both people. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to do that, right? But sadly, it is not uncommon when people get upset with one another, when they have conflict, they don't share it with each other. If I offend somebody, right, I may not even know it. And these people might be talking behind my back, and I have no idea that I even upset them. And that happens so often. People won't share that they're upset. They won't tell people about it, and yet they'll tell this friend, this person, and then they're pretty much gossiping and slandering somebody behind their back, and it's awful. It's awful. And as friends, as a true friend, We don't want that for people, right? We want to protect their reputation. We want to reconcile them together. Because sometimes they're not listening to God in those moments, right? This happens with Christians too. Make no mistake about it. There's a biblical model for conflict, a biblical model for how we're supposed to handle that. And 90% of the people in the church don't do it. It's sad. I see it happen all the time. But we don't want those things. We want reconciliation, right? That's what true friends help others do, is be reconciled. So Jonathan repeatedly defended David's character over and over again. And now we may never be threatened with our lives, right, for doing that, but it's our responsibility to intervene and help them whenever we can. Even when the times are good, even when the times are bad, that's our role. That's what faithfulness looks like. That's what loving somebody deeply looks like. But we need to remember that this relationship between Jonathan and David was not one-sided. David also loved Jonathan in remarkable ways. You know, we got to remember, David was repeatedly, constantly hunted by King Saul. Constantly. Yet, he understood that Saul was Jonathan's father, right? He had many chances to kill Saul, and he wouldn't do it, refused to do it, wouldn't allow his troops to do it. And I think this was obviously because he trusted God to a certain extent, you know, and he knew that at least for a time, Saul was the person that God had anointed, and he wasn't going to take him out of that. When God wanted him out of the office of king, he would make sure it happened. But I think he also understood the dilemma that Jonathan faced, that Jonathan still loved his dad, right? How many people have had a very bad experience with a parent or family member or somebody that they're really close with, but they still love them, right? They still, even though they've been hurt deeply by those people, molested, beaten, whatever it may be, there's still that connection there, right? And I think David got that. Saul was a treacherous person. He didn't always act like this, but he became that, and I think David realized it and wanted to protect his friend Jonathan. So David repeatedly spared Saul's life, and sadly, though, eventually Saul died at the hand of his own sword by killing himself, and Jonathan died with him. But you know what David did? He mourned Saul's death. Can you imagine that? Truly, legitimately, honestly mourned Saul's death, his own enemy. And he certainly mourned the death of his best friend. That's just crazy to think of. But he mourned his friend. But you know what David did that was even more special? He ended up taking care of Jonathan's son like he was one of his own. 2 Samuel talks about that story. He never forgot about his pact with David, or with Jonathan. And even after his friend died, he loves Jonathan's son like his own. He adopted him, basically. That's friendship. That's loyalty. That's love. He took in and helped King Saul's family. Can you even imagine how he loved Jonathan, but he also helped King Saul's family along the way? See, friends, Jesus tells us to love our neighbor as ourselves, and to love our friends as we would want to be loved. He is the greatest example of love. Greatest. See, David may have spared Saul many, many times, even though Saul sinned against him many, many times. But think of what Jesus has done. Think about it. His mercy towards us isn't even comparable to that, right? All of us, like Saul, have gone astray. We have committed countless acts of sin against God and against other people. Our sin stretches so wide that we can't even become to grasp. I mean, anything you think about yourself when it comes to your sin, it's not even close. Your sin, there are so many things hidden from you today. There's so many things hidden from you in the past. Sin is just resonating throughout us. But you know what? We have a God who is willing to forgive, willing to spare our life, willing to give us the mercy we don't deserve, so that we can become his adopted children. See, David adopted Jonathan's son as one of his own, even though he was the grandson of his biggest enemy. He offered him a seat at the table, and Jesus offers us a seat at his table as well. All he wants from us is our willingness to turn to him, our willingness to turn to him in faith and follow him. Because he has paid the price for our sins. He went to the cross for the sins that we committed and that we continue to commit. We needed that because God, being a just God, said, I have to punish sin, but he provided a way out. Jesus took the penalty for our sin in full, but he says, you want to follow me? I have a seat at the table for you. That is love. That is mercy. You know, when we turn to Jesus, we follow him and we do our best to pursue him, even in this messed up world. We do our best to walk beside God. And our closest friends should help us do that. And this leads me to my last point. Real friends are faithful and true. They love each other deeply. And real friends help you move towards God. A real friend helps you walk with God and find strength in the Lord. Jonathan and David loved each other in action and deed. And Jonathan repeatedly intervened on behalf and warned David of his father's schemes. But he did so much more. He encouraged David throughout this time. He reminded him of God's goodness, God's promises, God's mercy. He helped David find courage and strength in the Lord. Now, before Jonathan died, David was hiding from Saul once again. Happened a lot. But this time, he and some faithful warriors were hiding in the wilderness. And after not seeing him for quite some time, Jonathan went to David and reminded him of God's faithfulness, of God's promises. 1 Samuel 23 talks about this. It says, David now stayed in the strongholds of the wilderness in the hill country of Ziph. Saul hunted him day after day, but God didn't let Saul find him. One day near Horesh, David received the news that Saul was on the way to Ziph to search for him and kill him. Jonathan went to find David and encouraged him to stay strong in his faith of God. Don't be afraid, Jonathan reassured him. My father will never find you. You are going to be the king of Israel, and I will be next to you, as my father Saul is well aware. So the two of them renewed their solemn pact before the Lord. Then Jonathan returned home, while David stayed at Horesh. See, the Bible doesn't recount every interaction between David and Jonathan. Just can't be, unless we wanted to have a Bible bigger than this church. But what we do know is that they were very close. There were times when they were encouraging one another, when they were building each other up. And I think that was one of Jonathan's greatest strengths. He was an encourager. He encouraged David to be faithful to God, to remember God's promises, and that's what real friends do, right? I'm sure David had doubts. Can you imagine being hunted nonstop? Wondering, when is this going to stop? When is Saul going to be taken care of? He wouldn't do it, right? He was worried about what Jonathan thought. He was worried that this was God's anointed person. But you had, if you were him, wouldn't you have doubts? Man, maybe I'm not going to be the next king. Maybe I am going to die to this person. But you know what? Jonathan said no. Don't believe those lies. That's not true. See, real friends don't allow lies to creep in and destroy your life. Whether they're coming from inwardly issues, inward thoughts that you're having, or whether they're coming from people who make you believe things that are not true. Real friends don't do that. They don't sit back and let their friends go down a path of destruction or down a wrong path. No. They don't ever do that. They won't refuse to have a tough conversation. And they won't refuse to point out an area of sin that needs to be addressed. No, they intervene so their friends find strength in the Lord. They help them walk with God, reminding them of God's goodness and promises. I can't tell you where I'd be without these kind of friends in my life, and there's a few here today. The real friends tell you the truth, even when it's difficult to hear, right? Real friends remind you of the mercy that you've been given, of the love that you've been given. Real friends steer you back. They help you do a U-turn when you're going down the wrong path. I've had some Christian friends that have helped me through some very difficult times. When I've been wondering about God's goodness, when I've been wondering even in those moments of doubt, like, are you here still, Lord? When I've been depressed, when I've been angry, I went through a huge bout of depression for almost a year and a half. And I have friends in this room who helped me through that. But they've also helped me to give me the kick in the butt that I need sometimes. when God calls me to do something and I'm not doing it. That's friendship. And as friendships, as Christians, we need to remember that God has placed these peoples in our lives, and sometimes we're there as his voice, right? Sometimes our friends are at a point where they're not listening to God. They're not opening up their Bibles. They're not able to hear because of all the noise going around them, right? Because of the mental health issues, because of all these things that can step in. But a real friend walks beside us and helps us hear the voice of God, reminds us of his promises, his goodness, his love, his mercy, everything that he bestows upon us. That's what a real friend does. You know, I know a lot of people, even had people in my family who think this, but they think avoiding conflict is a good thing. They think avoiding a difficult conversation is a good thing, because that's what a real friend would do. You don't want to upset somebody, right? A real friend doesn't upset you. That is a lie. That is a lie from Satan, friends, and I'm telling you this right now. Real friends don't avoid these things, because you can't love somebody as you would love yourself if you're not willing to speak up. You can't help and be committed and faithful to somebody if you're not willing to speak up. You can't help somebody walk with God if you're not willing to speak up and point out things that they need to hear. That's what real friends do, and it doesn't matter if it's uncomfortable. You can be uncomfortable, so what? Jesus died on the cross. You have to be uncomfortable. Big deal. Be a real friend. That's what God calls for us to do. I'll go as far as to say this. If you aren't willing to speak up and have difficult conversations with people that God has put in your life, your true friends, you're not being a real friend. Point blank. Now please understand, friendships like Jonathan and David's are rare, very rare. Friendships like Tom and Everett are rare. We can't have these kind of bonds with everyone. We won't. It's not possible. But when you found your Jonathan, when you found your David, I pray that you will hold them tight and not let anything get in the way. No excuse, no amount of distance, no whatever is going on in their life, no conflict. You work through it. Doesn't matter. Because God has put that person in your life as a blessing, and you for them as well. God is the one who is gifting us these friends. Pay attention to that. I want to leave you with this. Real friends are committed and true. They love you as they would want to be loved, and they help you walk with God. And I want you to ask yourself, who is your David? Who is your Jonathan? Might be one person. Might be a couple. I don't know. Who is that person that you know God has put in your life? Are you being faithful to them? Are you not letting anything get in the way of your friendship? Sometimes things happen. People move away. People get busy. There's struggles wherever, at work, family, whatever. Don't abandon your friend, even if you're going through difficult times. No matter what, cling to them. Because friendship is not just about common interest, having fun, getting together, watching the game, whatever it may be. You know, these things help us form these bonds, especially initially, right? Friendship is so much more than this. And if we do the things that we've been talking about today, I think we can have lifelong friendships. Hold on to your truest friends. Let's pray. Father, I just thank you for your word. Thank you for the truth that you always give us when we open it up. Thank you for this example of Jonathan and David, who shouldn't have been friends by all accounts, yet they're a shining example of what it means to love each other, to love somebody in a deep way, and to put their needs above their own. Lord, I pray that all of us would know who that special friend is in our life, and that we would cling to that person. That nothing would get into our way of that friendship. If there's ever been tension, if there's been conflict, if there's been anything that has stepped in the way, that you'll help us resolve those things, Lord. Friends are a special gift that you have bestowed upon us. You are merciful. They help us to hear your truth, to hear your voice when we're not listening, when we're struggling to go through these things and we're not attuned to your spirit, Lord. I thank you for the friends in my life. who have been so special to me. I pray that I can be as good of a friend to them as they have been to me, Lord. I pray that you would point out areas of weakness that I need to improve. And I pray I would do everything in my power to be faithful and true to them. Lord, we thank you for your love, your mercy. You are the greatest example of love. Help us to extend that out. Help us to show forgiveness. Help us to be reconciled to others. Help us to give people mercy, love, and peace. Lord, thank you for friends. Thank you for the people in our lives. We ask that you would bless our friendships. Please bless us, Lord. If there's anyone here who doesn't know who their David and Jonathan is, I pray that you would make it clear. Pray that you would make that clear to them and that they could experience this blessing. In your name we pray. Amen.
I've got a friend closer than a brother. There is no judgment. Oh, how he loves me. I've got a friend, and he is my strength. He is my portion, with me in the valley, with me in the fire, with me in the storm. Let all my life testify
have somebody in your life that you haven't connected with in a while, there's a strain on that relationship, make this week the time to reconcile. If you have that friend you've been taken advantage of, haven't been giving them the time of day, make it a time to make things right. Friends are a blessing. We need them. God puts them in our life. Okay? May the God of love, mercy, and forgiveness be with you this week. Give you peace.
I'm doing good.
Are you proud?